A very good evening to our viewers. Thank you for joining us tonight on the Evening Review. My name is Toiwan Jabela, your host. Tonight on the platform, and perhaps for the last time, we are welcoming Charles Moore. He is the British High Commissioner to Namibia, and we are told, and he will confirm in a minute, that his time in the country is up. His deployment time is up, and we are here to talk about his tenure during his stay in Namibia. Thank you very much, His Excellency, for always gracing our invitations. Are you living? Is that true?
Yes. Well, Toiva, thanks for having me. I mean, it's I've been here a number of times now,
Yes,
and
yes.
it's always been a pleasure to work with you, and it's a pleasure to be back again.
Yeah.
So yes, mid-April, I will have completed just over 4 years.
Okay.
It's gone far too quickly.
Yeah.
But it's been a very special time, and it's been a privilege to work and to live in Namibia and get to know the country so well.
Absolutely. So that is your scheduled time of serving here, or is it? Does it have anything to do with, for example, the change of government in your country back home?
No. So we have a standard tour of duty, which is usually 3 years, and they give us an optional year, so you can do up to 4 years generally. So it's a standard tour of duty.
Okay, so you triggered the option.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, no, very interesting. So, how has it been here in terms of your work, in terms of perhaps the accomplishments? Because I know that a lot of times that when you came here to the platform is, I remember one time it was about Namibian students who were awarded scholarships, and there was this storm in a teacup, and you came to clarify things, and then there was the issue of visas. But there ought to be a lot more positive things that you are willing to share with us here.
Yeah, no, I mean, it has been positive, and I think in every bilateral relationship, and especially over a 4-year period, that there's going to be quite a lot that is achieved, and I think my objective over 4 years was to strengthen the partnership, the relationship between Namibia and the UK. Not everything's going to be positive, and in fact, take the visa regime. We had a very specific problem about asylum seekers arriving in the UK, and the only way we could stop it was to impose a visa regime, and that worked because it deterred asylum seekers. And as I've always said, the downside of that is that the genuine visitors, the people we really want to come to the UK for business and for travel, they were the ones who were, if you like, it made it more difficult for them with costs and everything. But I know that Namibia understood the reasons for the visa regime because we couldn't sustain the asylum seekers that were coming across. That having been said, I mean, there's on the sad side of life as well, there's been a number of people passing away during my tenure here. The Duke of Edinburgh passed away in my first year, the Queen passed away, President Gengob passed away, and then President Nyoma. And all of that is very sad, but it also gave us an opportunity to renew the relationship between us. We were delighted that President Gengob attended the funeral of Her Majesty, and we were delighted as well that the Princess Royal attended the funeral of President Gengob. And those sort of things show the strength of the relationship. We've done a lot of trade, to do more on trade together, and I think we have a very close understanding of each other as two nations.
Yeah. How did you deal with perceptions? Because there's always been perceptions, whether at a casual, low level, or pockets of it within the bureaucracy of government. When you deal with people who are not receptive to the idea that the West is actually a viable partner for a country like ours, and that there's nothing else than what we are told as far as the relations are concerned. I mean, people are sometimes saying, oh, we must look east or we must look south because the West maybe is not our best friend. I mean, how do you, a person in your position, rectify those kind of perceptions?
Well, it's not necessarily about rectification. I mean, you're welcome to look in whichever direction you want, and you should be. You know, if Namibia wants to do something on whether it's green hydrogen or oil and gas or whatever it is, find the best partners in the world. I'm not saying you've got to turn to us or that you shouldn't turn to others. You should always look for the best partnership in the world. We have, you know, my job here is to promote British values and to promote British skills and expertise. We have a lot of expertise, for example, in green hydrogen, in oil and gas, in wind farm, clean energy. And we're always ready to partner with Namibia on that, to share our expertise. We're not good at everything, and there'll be other partners who are better at things than we are. So this is about understanding, and I've said it from when I arrived here. I said my job here is to understand what direction Namibia wants to take, what Namibia wants to achieve, and then to see how we, the UK, can help Namibia achieve its goals. And I think that's really important to understand, because it's not for us to try and tell Namibia which direction to go in, to try and advise Namibia on what it should do. It's our job to understand what you want to do and then to see how we can be part of that. And I think that's really key, because it's about partnership. It's not about any sort of condescension or an inequality. You know, equality in the relationship is an absolute must.
Yeah, and when you talk about equality, His Excellency, is it realistic when a huge economy like the UK is in partnership, this kind of bilateral partnership with a country as small as Namibia, small economic-wise and at many other levels?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's part of it, actually. You know, we have trading relationships with many countries around the world. The size of their economy doesn't mean that, you know, that's too small for us to be involved in. You know, we might not expect Namibia to make multi-billion pound investments in the UK, but what we can do is try to encourage British investors to make multi-million pound investments in Namibia. And we did. I mean, even at the end of last year, our largest investment, Solar Century, setting up solar panel farms near Harus, £20 million investment. You know, we're very proud of that. That Namibian businesses and investors are increasing their confidence in looking at Namibia as a reliable and valuable partner, place to invest.
What does Namibia offer to a country like yours? I'm thinking of, for example, the Trump administration in the UK, in the US, has been very blatant, for example, of what it wants in Ukraine. They say we want those minerals for our economy, but also it's a guarantee of some sort, because then we know that we have interest to protect your country. In Namibia, what would you say the UK's interest, apart from the 50-50 things? What is it that this country has that your country would be interested in?
Well, I mean, you mentioned yourself the sort of minerals that you have. I mean, Namibia has just about everything under the ground that every country would be interested in, whether that is diamonds, whether it's lithium, whether it's uranium, whatever it is. It's for Namibia as the sovereign country to decide how it's going to extract those minerals, what they want to do with them, how they want to profit from them. Obviously, we have different needs. Different countries have different needs. You know, whether we need more lithium than, say, Sweden or something. But we're there to sort of engage with Namibia in terms of how we can assist in those industries, how we can invest in those industries, and how we can trade from those industries. And I think one major issue over the last few years is about how Namibia can benefit more from the minerals that it owns, that it's sitting on. Adding value, for example, to diamonds in Namibia would be a great thing, because then Namibia can benefit more from what is in its own soil.
A very hypothetical question here, Charles. at a global level, we know that there's a number of levels at which your country and, say, China do not see eye to eye in terms of the set of values that each country has and its outlook on global affairs generally. So, at your level as ambassador here, High Commissioner, is it, do you ever come across the Chinese embassy here, for example? Do you greet each other?
Yeah. No, definitely. Well, look, that's what diplomacy is about. I mean, you know, countries can disagree, but diplomacy is about being cordial. And actually, I've had a couple of conversations with the Chinese ambassador. I'm very happy to see him at any time. And it's been an honor to attend like Chinese National Days at their embassy. Any differences between us doesn't mean that we can't or shouldn't talk. In fact, it means that we should talk. And there are many, as well as there are differences between us, there are also very similarities in what we're trying to achieve. So actually, we don't shy away from that at all. Having differences, you know, even if you bring it down to a level of personal friendships, you can have a personal friendship where you might disagree with somebody, or you might disagree with your wife. It doesn't mean you don't talk to them. It means that you actually talk to them and understand each other's viewpoints. So that's what it's all about. And also, you know, on a macro level, it's not for me and the Chinese ambassador to necessarily engage in the sort of issues that Beijing and London are engaged in. You know, we're here both in Namibia. We can talk about different things. We can discuss Namibia. You know, I haven't met him for a long time, but that's purely circumstantial. But if we do see each other, absolutely no problems.
Okay. Plus, your countries have diplomatic.
Of course.
Yeah.
If you have diplomatic relations with a country, then we're encouraged to exploit those and to talk to each other.
Absolutely. Just before we go for a very short break, His Excellency, one of the issues that how do the numbers look like now in terms of people seeking asylum in the UK since you imposed that new regime there?
Yeah, well, we imposed the visa regime in July 2023, and in the year up to July 2023, I think we had over 1,000 Namibians arriving at UK ports and claiming asylum. I think since then it's down to less than 20 people in over 18 months. So it is a strong deterrent. I mean, someone can still apply for get a visa, and if they arrive in the UK, they can still claim asylum if they feel so inclined. So the visa regime does not absolutely stop people applying for asylum if they get to the UK. But what it has done is deter anybody from jumping on a plane and arriving in the UK and claiming asylum. So it's had a dramatic impact on the number of people who try to do that. And that was the objective of the visa regime. It wasn't to punish Namibians who are legitimate travellers. It was simply to stop the people who were illegitimately travelling to claim asylum. Absolutely.
We go on a very short break and then return with High Commissioner Charles Moore. The evening review continues with High Commissioner Charles Moore. Now, we also have a transition happening in the country. You have actually, during your time here, observed several evolutions within our political landscape, but perhaps the most important one is now the election last year that produced a female president that will be sworn in this week. Yeah, just your take on this transition, this time for Namibia.
I think it's very significant, and as you said, during my tenure, I mean, last year obviously we had the deeply sad passing of President Geingob when he was in office. And I think that shook the entire country, not just the political establishment, but everybody. You know, at that time, you could see a way ahead that we were heading towards elections, and then suddenly everything was thrown into the air. And so to see how Namibia coped with that, both politically and nationally, was actually quite humbling. You know, the transition when President Mbumba took over to see out the legacy of Dr. Gengob. That was sort of, everything was calm, but it was, and it must have been a very challenging time for him personally, but he took over the reins and steered the country through to the elections in November. And I think now it's a really significant time for Namibia. I've not necessarily tried to make anything of the fact that she is female, because equality means that male and female are perfectly capable of doing the job. So we shouldn't, you know, I would be reluctant to celebrate just the fact that President-elect is female. She's President-elect because she's capable and seen by the country as capable of holding that office, and the fact that she is a woman is a bonus rather than a part of that. So it's still significant though, because Namibia already has a really good record of gender equality. You have an excellent record in the National Assembly of gender equality and in leadership, and so this is just an extension of that, but taking it to the office of the president is really excellent. And so I applaud the fact that Namibia is going to be the first country in Southern Africa to have a female president. I think it will be great for the country. She is obviously hugely experienced, very professional, deeply committed, and that comes through when you speak to her. And of course, I've known her for the 4 years because she was Foreign Minister Merco when I arrived, and so seeing her transition through that to vice president and now to president is good to see.
It's good that you mentioned. It's good that you mentioned the gender element, because I mean, your country has had Margaret Thatcher, and then not too long ago you had another female prime minister.
We had Theresa May.
Yes.
And then very briefly, Liz Truss.
Exactly, exactly. And your country did not collapse on its knees because a woman was in charge. So the template has been set already, and I think as Namibians, we can just really look at some of those examples and adopt the same. What would a country like yours expect from an administration of Netumana Nanditwa?
More of the same. I mean, you know, the fact is that you know, it's an increasingly complex world, and it's about partnership. Obviously, the president-elect will be setting her agenda to look ahead over the period of her tenure to do what is best for Namibia and for Namibians. And our job is to support her in that. You know, we're Commonwealth partners. We've had a long relationship. We have many values in common. And so, again, it comes back to understanding what direction Namibia and therefore the president-elect wants to take, and to see how we can support that. And in a way that's easy to do because of the fact that we have many shared values. So we can support each other on various issues. And the world is getting much more complex. So you're talking about, when you think about cybercrime or something like that, you know, we might have more experience where we can share that with you because we might have started on that sort of thing earlier. And so it's all about support, respect and understanding. We'll wait to see what particular direction the president-elect wants to take Namibia, and we will be there to support her in that journey.
Absolutely. Do we know yet who's coming to replace you here?
Yes, my successor has been named, and he's called Neil Bradley. He's spent the last almost 5 years as the British ambassador in Liberia. Okay. And so that's also good. He's also had significant experience. He was 7 or 8 years, I think, in South Africa. So he has experience of working in Southern Africa, but he's also had experience of being an ambassador in West Africa as well. And he is, I spoke to him just this morning actually, he's so excited about coming here. He knows already a lot of it from me, that this is a delightful place to live and to work. And he's also very keen because he's coming at a time when there will be this new government, the new president, the new government, new National Assembly, many new faces. And he will be here at an opportune time to build the relationship and extend the engagement with the new people.
Absolutely. One of the things that you did quite consistently during your time here, you have been quite active on social media, posting some of the amazing landscapes of the country, some of the nicest destinations in the country. But did you travel? Did you enjoy traveling in Namibia? What are your highlights?
Well, too many to mention because you haven't got 3 hours. But, but I've enjoyed it hugely. I mean, I've probably driven over 130,000 kilometers around this country. I've been everywhere from Oranjemund to Katima Mulilo to Pupa, and just about everywhere in between. And it's been absolutely fabulous. It's fabulous because it's so diverse, and you can, my job isn't just about understanding the politics or the government of Namibia. It's about understanding the people and the culture.
Yeah.
And you can't do that from Windhoek. And in fact, if anything, I discourage people from just visiting Windhoek because it gives you a completely incorrect impression of what Namibia is. Namibia isn't Windhoek. Namibia is far bigger than that. Whether you're talking about the open space of Fish River or Etosha, or if you're talking about the dire poverty in the northern regions, or the beauty of the coast, there are so many diverse aspects to Namibia, but it's important to understand them all and how they interlink, including the different cultures like the Himba and the San. To understand how they all fit to be part of the fabric of Namibia. You get a complete picture. You can't get a complete picture of Namibia just from Windhoek. So it's been really educational, and it's been a privilege to get to know the country as well as I do. I said when I first arrived here, I wanted to be, after a year or two, I wanted to be the person from the UK government who knows more about Namibia than anybody else. And I'm certainly achieved that just by having had the opportunity to get to know the country so well.
Absolutely. This was not your first, if I remember from our previous conversations, this was not your first African posting.
No. I mean, I sort of feel half African because I grew up in Nigeria. My first posting was Zimbabwe. I had a posting in Botswana, Ghana, and in South Sudan. So I've probably spent nearly almost 30 years on this continent. Wow. And there's still more that I would like to do because it's endlessly fascinating.
Absolutely. So in your case, what does the future look like? Are you waiting on your principals to say you are headed somewhere else, or where to from here?
Well, I'll go back to London first and then see what the opportunities are. Sometimes opportunities come up at short notice, so I'll see. I mean, I would still like to be involved in Africa. I would still follow developments in Namibia because it gets under your skin. I mean, you can't just sort of drop it just because you no longer live here. So I will still be very interested in following developments here. And at some stage, I've no doubt it won't be long before I'm back coming back to Etosha or to see the place again, see how it's changed. I mean, only 2 weeks ago I drove from Windhoek to Harare in Zimbabwe. Wow. For a conference we were having, and I found that fascinating because
went by road.
Yes.
Wow. Man.
Yes, and I found that fascinating because I left Botswana 35 years ago, and I left Zimbabwe 37 years ago.
Wow.
And so seeing the changes that have taken place in Gaborone and Harare in that time was just fabulous.
Wow.
But it was I like driving anyway, so why not?
Yeah. Okay. No, I mean this
2,000 kilometers in each direction.
Yeah. There's a friend of mine who, I mean, very ironic that you talk about that, because last week a friend of mine from Malawi, who is based in Addis Ababa at the AU, asked me, he wanted to come to Namibia and he wanted to know the distance between Harare and Windhoek. And I said, it's actually a long distance.
Yeah.
And I was urging him to rather go to Gaborone, because there's a new flight now between Windhoek and Gaborone, and rather take that. So he's still contemplating, and it's amazing that you actually took that journey, because it's long.
Oh, it's fabulous. And you know, the road across the north of Botswana through Maun to Nata and Francistown, that's not a good road.
Yeah.
The road from Gaborone to Windhoek all the way is excellent.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, but it's so nice because, you know, the roads are fairly open, they're good condition, you have beautiful scenery. Yeah, it's
Wow. Okay.
and it's rather like you know, understanding a country by traveling around it. If you're flying in a plane, you don't see anything.
Yeah.
But if you're traveling by road, you can appreciate the beauty, the diversity, just and even the sheer size of the country. Yeah. So yeah, I was very keen to do that. It was great.
Absolutely. His Excellency, thank you for making time, and I want to place on record my gratitude for the manner in which we have worked together, if it qualifies as working together, because I've always invited you here. You have been very frank in sharing information, you know, without beating around the bush, and that has been greatly valuable to my viewers in particular. So we wish you the very best in your future endeavors.
Well, thank you. I mean, it's always been a pleasure, because, you know, even when there are difficult issues to discuss, like the visa regime, we need to be transparent, we need to be open, we need to be honest, we need to be frank sometimes, and that's the only way actually which we can show how pleased we are to engage with Namibia. And I've always been delighted to be invited by you, and I'm sorry we won't have that many more opportunities, but it's been a pleasure to get to know you, and to be able to use your medium to get some information out. So Absolutely. Thank you so much for your hospitality.
Thank you very much. That is Charles Moore. He's the outgoing British ambassador to Namibia, who's been here for 4 years, slightly more than 4 years, and he'll be leaving the country very soon, and a new High Commissioner will be coming into office. Thank you for watching.